All right, YouTube, let's get right into it. So, I got a new mic, so I don't want to hear any complaints about the mic. This should be the right volume. I tested it out already, so here we go. Let's get right into it. So, been seeing a lot of comments, questions, talking about eating on the go, eating in general, different diets, all that other shit. And I was looking at the comments, I was like, after all these videos I made, you guys still don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So, we're gonna get into exactly a realistic, all right, because this is year round. This is not one day. This is not for a competition show. This is not temporary shit. This is how to eat to stay lean consistently. All right, now as you can see in this picture, looks like I have like 2,000 calories in front of me, which is yeah, it's pretty accurate. It's like 2,000 calories in front of me, right? Or 1,500, somewhere around 1,500 calories in front of me, right? Realistically, it's calories in versus calories out. Here's what I've learned from some of my leanest friends, being around lean people, that kind of thing. It's gonna be calories in, calories out, and it's gonna be what you eat 90% of the time. So a lot of times you guys are doing these diets, you guys are doing keto, carnivore, you're doing pretty good, but that's 2 weeks out of the year or 4 weeks out of the year, and there's 52 weeks in a year, right? So if you see me eat like this, I got a burger, got some fries. What is that? Bacon, and then some sushi. All right. So if you see me eat like this is less than 10% of the time. So it's not gonna have a big effect on me. However, even on these days, generally, I'm still within my calories, so I'm still not gonna gain weight. Remember, the only way you're gonna lose fat is gonna be being in a calorie deficit. The only way you're gaining weight is being in a calorie surplus. Both of those things require hard work. All right. Being in a calorie surplus consistently, that is hard work, whether you believe it or not. All right. So a lot of you guys seem confused about like, is white rice bad? Is this bad? Is that bad? That's what this video is going to be about. Now, obviously, this video is not for if you're lazy as fuck, if you're a gooner, if you have a negative mindset. We always say this, and it always comes down to this because usually when I go live, which I'm going to go live in a little bit, I see a lot of people on the live, and they're either gooners, lazy as shit, or they have a negative mindset regarding everything. So, with that mindset perspective, you are not going to reach your goals pretty much ever. All right. If you're uncoachable and unwilling to commit to 6 months, obviously this isn't for you, but also at least a year, to be honest, because it takes us 10 years plus to gain all the fat, gain all the weight, and we won't even give it 1 year. If you're full of excuses, constantly doing fad diets, obviously this is not for you, but this will also address a lot of the fad diet stuff that you guys have in the comment section. Because like I said, yesterday someone said something about I don't understand keto or keto, keeps you satiated. And it's like, listen, it's all about what you can do long term. All right. So as far as like a lot of people think they should do keto to stay satiated and lose fat, and then just somehow revert back to their old diet, which they're going to gain a lot of muscle glycogen and water weight back, which is going to discourage them, and they're going to be scared and be like, oh my gosh, I gained all the weight back, that kind of thing. Which is why you should just focus on fat loss in the first place, not just the weight going up and down. Because yes, if you do keto, the weight will go down fast, muscle glycogen, actual muscle, some water weight. But then when you reintroduce carbs, the muscle glycogen, the water weight is going to go back up, and you're going to panic because you've been paying attention to the scale instead of your body fat percentage. So when you have a mindset that's based on lifestyle and fat loss, you are going to approach things differently. You're not going to make the dumb mistakes, or you're not going to think of things certain ways. Now, obviously, if you're not willing to change your relationship with food, you'll pretty much be stuck where you are. And majority of people are stuck where they are because they're not willing to change their relationship with food. Now, here is the real truth that people don't want to, they don't want to acknowledge. So when it comes to specifically the fat loss journey, the entire journey is very, very based on self accountability. And most people, instead of taking accountability, they just say, oh no, I have horrible genetics, or it runs in my family, or I have big bones. And like I always say, there's no big bone skeletons, so that shit doesn't exist. But in reality, the way that you gain weight in the first place and you gain fat in the first place is through hard work. So a lot of people will tell me, they'll be like, hey man, you're lucky, you're lucky, you never put on that much weight. No, I'm not lucky. It's because I didn't eat as much food as you did. And then some people will be like, well, I'm 300. You don't understand how it is to be 300. No, I don't, because before I got to 300, I was like, you know what? This, I'm eating a lot of food. I feel like shit. So let me, cut it out or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, in order for you to get to the 300, to get to the 40, percent body fat, that is just consistently overeating and eating meals that I don't eat, eating meals that other lean people don't eat. So you got to enjoy all those meals. A side effect of that is you're gaining a lot of fat, right? So in reality, you're the reason you're there. But once you realize you're the reason you got there, you'll realize that you're the reason, or you're the solution to getting to your goals. All right. Very, very simple. Now, another thing that you guys seem to ignore, it is still calories in versus calories out. So if you incorporate more healthy foods and you're losing fat, you're feeling good, and then you stop losing weight and you're like, I don't know what happened. I stopped losing fat. I stopped losing fat. it's because you're probably just not in a deficit. So always be tracking your calories, all right? Don't stop tracking your calories for any reasons. If you're losing fat, track your calories. If you're trying to gain muscle, track your calories. If you're maintaining, track your calories just so you have awareness. Most people have zero clue how much they're eating and they go by just how full they are, which is a bad indicator because you can be like 3,000 calories deep and not full if you're just eating a bunch of, you know, chocolates and chips and shit like that. Or you can be 1,500 calories in and be super full if you're eating a bunch of sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, chicken and steak. So don't go by satiety because that is not always a good indicator, depending on what you're eating. Like when you're eating a bunch of processed stuff, your satiety is going to be super low. If you're eating a lot of whole food, your satiety will be high. All right, but that doesn't mean your calories are high. So a lot of people confuse those two things. They're like, "Dang, I can't eat this much, protein. It's too much food," and it's like it's way less than you usually eat. Like, what are you talking about? You just have no self awareness of what you usually eat. So if you're trying to cut fat or you're trying to cut down, trying to drop body fat percentage, and you're not willing to count your calories, or you don't want to count your calories, or you think counting calories is a pain in the ass, well, that's why you're going to stay where you are, and that's why you're not going to get leaner because it's just a bare minimum requirement. Because if you don't know how many calories you have, obviously you're not going to know how how many calories you have at the end of the day, which means you're not going to know if you're in a deficit or not. So you're just guessing every day, which is wasting time because time is your most valuable asset, right? So if you want to lose fat and it says eat 2,300 calories and you just want to guesstimate, you don't want to actually, track your calories. You're probably going to eat over every single day. Then you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm trying hard, but I'm not losing fat. I don't care what you're trying to do. If you're not doing the bare minimum, which is tracking your calories, so you know how much you're freaking eating, that's like a bare minimum, then you're not doing what's needed. All right. Instead of complicating things, just do what you need to do. All right. Just track your calories. All right, another thing, obviously, you want to prioritize protein for body composition, for metabolism, for all of those things, for muscle building. If this is your first time eating higher protein, even in a cut, you'll be gaining a little bit of muscle as well. And also for satiety. Like I said earlier, a lot of people will eat, you know, 10 ounces of steak for the first time and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so full. Like, I probably just ate 3,000 calories. And it's like, it was a sirloin steak, so that 10 ounces was probably like 700 calories or whatever, but they feel super full because they had it with a sweet potato, which is another 140 calories. So, they're full for the rest of the day, basically. And they're like, dude, I can't eat anything else. Versus they usually have, some Reese's, some Frappuccinos, and, one thing of Reese's is 300 calories. Frappuccino is another 500. That's already more than the steak and sweet potato, but that doesn't fill them up because it doesn't have a lot of volume and satiety to it. You see what I'm saying? So it's very important that you prioritize protein even when you go out. This is my meal going out, as you can see right here, sirloin steak. This is 8 or 10 ounces. Pretty sure it's 8 ounces. And then some asparagus and some beans. Um, they don't have potatoes that day, but I usually do like a potato or sweet potato as well, just to keep me satiated. But also, it's going to be way lower calories than it looks. It looks like it's a lot of calories because it's a leaner meat. But a lot of people don't realize that you can eat 73.27 beef and have one patty, and for those same amount of calories and more protein and less fat, you can have two 93.7, patties, and they look the same. If you season it right, they taste the same. So it's those small changes that make a big difference. All right. So that is exactly why I said in the previous slide to track your calories so you can have more awareness regarding food. But also you want to prioritize protein because it's going to keep you satiated longer anyways. Now, this is one of the simplest concepts, but one of the most overlooked concepts. So many people, I talk to a lot of women when it comes to losing fat, and a lot of times their weakness is in the morning. They go to Starbucks and they get a mocha latte, they get a frappuccino, they get a cappuccino, or they get whatever whatever those drinks are called, and it's like 400 to 500 calories. And then they're like, what, I want a muffin too, so they get a muffin or they get like a banana bread. So if you get a frappuccino and a banana bread, that is more than 100 grams of sugar, which is double the amount of Skittles, right? That's number one. Number two, that's like 900 calories to start off your day. So throughout the rest of the day, if you don't eat that much, you're still going to hit a high calorie number because you already ate 900 calories at 6 a.m. You see what I'm saying? Then you might have had a big lunch or whatever. They brought maybe at work, they brought, the unit probably bought pizza. If it's like, if you're working as a nurse, then the unit probably bought like pizza or something like that. You have three slices of pizza, that's another 900 calories. You get home, you say you're hungry, so you eat something else. You're at 2,700 calories thinking you ate 1,500. You see what I'm saying? And that's important to tracking as well. But another thing is the composition of those calories as well. Most drinks are not going to have a lot of protein in it unless it's an actual protein drink. Like if you just get any random drink, even if you get like a naked smoothie, it's going to be like a lot of carbs, straight carbs. If you get soda, obviously straight carbs, juice, straight sugar and carbs, and then milkshakes, frappuccinos, straight fat and sugar. Like that's all they have in it. So that's going to affect your body composition, insulin resistance as well. All right. The only drinks that that you want is going to be obviously like protein shakes and stuff like that. That's going to be high in protein and lower in carbs and lower in fat, stuff like that. All right, very simple. Now, eating carbs are fast. Now, a lot of people think that you just have to stay away from carbs or carbs are the enemy. Just all this dumb shit because they just don't understand basics of nutrition because it is always going to be calories in, calories out. And if you overconsume, you are going to gain weight. If you consume less, then you are going to lose fat. Like it is what it is. But a lot of people get scared of carbs and they're like, oh my God, bad carbs, this is that. Now, the reason a lot of people lose fat when they cut out carbs is because their entire diet currently, like most people's entire diets are just carbs. They just are. It is what it is. So if they cut it out, that means they're eating less because they're not eating carbs, which was their entire diet. So by that logic, I mean, of course you're gonna lose fat. Like when people tell me, "Oh my God, I lost weight," and I cut out carbs. Well, if 90% of your, or if, let's just say 70% of your diet was carbs, the rest of it was like fats and protein, then if you cut out 70% of the food you're eating, obviously you're going to lose fat. But another thing is, it's not about cutting out carbs, it's about what carb sources you eat. When you eat more natural carbs and you eat less of the chips and, less of the cake, less of the candy and stuff like that, then obviously, most of the other carbs are going to have fiber, natural sugars, but also they're going to keep you full longer. And as long as they fit into your calories, you'll be fine. All right. Just prioritize protein first and then make sure you have a moderate amount of fat, moderate amount of carbs. It's really that simple. You don't have to overstress and be like, oh my God, white rice is bad. It's like you didn't get, like nobody gets fat off of eating 1 cup of white rice. Right? If they got fat, it's because they overconsumed a bunch of rice, but they're also eating candy, stuff like that. So I'll have people who literally eat candy and chips, drink liquor, and they tell me this on the consultation call, and then I'm like, okay, well, week one we're gonna have 1 cup of rice twice, twice a day, and they're like, oh my God, that's like too much rice. I'm like, dude, that's 80 grams of carbs, and your overall carbs for the day is like 180, which is like one meal that you used to have basically. So it's way less than you used to have. But people, when they start to track, they panic. They're like, oh my God, I can't eat this much. It's like you always eating this much. Matter of fact, you've always eaten more, which is why you are where you are. Very, very simple. All right, so carbs are going to give you energy. Another thing about them that people don't realize is that if you don't eat enough carbs, right, and you try to just starve yourself and you lose a bunch of strength, guess what? You're going to lose muscle mass as well. It's going to affect your body composition, your mood, and anything that affects your body composition, which is pretty much half of your motivation, anything that affects your energy, which is going to make you feel like shit, and anything that affects your mood is going to make it less likely that you sustain something. All right, so you're probably not going to sustain what you're doing because you drop like 20 pounds of strength on squats and you drop like 10 pounds of strength on, flat dumbbell press and you can't do more than 12 dips anymore, like all that stuff. All right. Another thing is when it comes to fats, specifically healthy fats, fats are important for your testosterone levels, keeping your testosterone levels high and making sure that your hormone levels are in check. So you never want to just go super low fat. All right. You want that balance because you need fat. Fat is important for hormone function and, of course, satiety. All right, one more thing. Stop, hyper fixating on meal timing when the most important factor, the single most important factor, is not meal timing, it's the amount of calories you eat. Because best believe you can do 16/8 fasting, and as soon as you break your fast, if you eat 4 donuts, if you drink 2 milkshakes, and you eat a pizza, which people have done this shit before. Matter of fact, a lot of people do this, and you drink a beer or some shit like that, you are going to gain weight. All right, you're going to gain weight. It is what it is. You're going to gain fat. It's about the composition of what you're eating and whether you're in a deficit or not. That's the key to fat loss. Now, if you're trying to gain muscle, it means that you want to be in a surplus and still high protein. All right. It is the total amount of calories. All right. It's the total amount of calories. Now, 16/8 fasting might help some people to eat less, you know what I mean? But for the most part, long term, it's not going to help most people eat less. Like most people don't have to. If you have discipline to stick to 16/8 fasting, you just have discipline in general. Like, can I stick to 16/8 fasting? Yeah, I probably can. You know what I mean? But do I think it's necessary? No. It literally, it's all about your overall calories. It really doesn't fucking matter. But those who can stick to 16/8 fasting generally have higher discipline, anyways. But if you're someone who just you've been eating 5,000 calories a day, 4,000 calories a day, and you're trying to go from 5,000 to 4,000 calories a day to 16/8 fasting and like 2,000 calories, you're just gonna burn out because that's not what the issue is. And a lot of times, people who do the fasting, they just think about food more because they're limiting it for a 16-hour period. So listen, all you got to do, make sure overall calories are good. It's literally that simple. All right. Now, what I'm talking about is I'm always talking about losing fat sustainably. I'm talking about health. All right. So I don't want someone to come in here and be like, I've been able to maintain 5% body fat. because I've done 16.8, congratulations. The fact that you even got to 5% means you have more discipline than 99.9% of people. All right, simple. And if someone comes in here and says something about, well, I do CrossFit and I do 16.8, if you've done CrossFit for more than a year, then that means you have more discipline than 99% of people. All right, simple. Now, one more thing. Eat like an adult. All right, what does that mean? That just means get your vitamins and minerals, man. Get your vitamins and minerals in because vitamins and minerals aren't just, things that people tell you to eat. It's like it's actually necessary for bodily functions, mood, energy, strength, hormones, all of that stuff. So eat more whole foods. I see a lot of, you know, adults, and if you watch their story, you can watch the story on Instagram or something like that. But you'll notice that on the weekends it's a lot of pizza. It might be some frosted flakes in the morning. It's some beer here and there. So it's like just a lot of processed stuff, and there's no protein at all. It's like low protein, bunch of candy, some chocolate here and there, ice cream, liquor, right? And they're not feeding their body what their body needs. All right, so if most of your meals come from Uber Eats, they come from, DoorDash, or you're eating out, or you're one of the people in the Popeyes line, and don't comment some shit because I've been seeing the Popeyes line is always full. So I know that somebody's in it. All right, it's not empty. Because I was like, oh my God, well, I'm not in, yes, you are. Someone's in the Popeyes line. All right, everybody's big, and everyone says they're not in the Popeyes line. So who's lying? Not me, y'all. All right, so if you're constantly in the fast food line, if you're constantly door dashing and Uber eating, and you're fat and broke, do not blame anybody but yourself. Because literally, I didn't put it in your GPS to go to Popeyes. I didn't put it in GPS to go to Chick-fil-A. You did it. All right. I did, and if I did go to Chick-fil-A, I could get some grilled chicken nuggets or something. All right. But you're the one that ordered the fries, the cookie, the milkshake, and the sandwich, not me. All right. So you got to take accountability. Simple. Now, social pressure. The social pressure is it's an interesting concept. Now, obviously, when I'm with my friends, we usually eat the same foods and stuff like that, so I don't really have that problem. But if there is social pressure, generally at this stage, like people will be like, oh, okay, well, Luther's here, let's try to find something healthy for him, or let me not even ask him if he wants to eat candy and shit like that. And that's how consistent you want to be, so people can start to notice that, right? But also if it's like June and you've literally every single day you've literally eaten hitting your calories, you haven't went over calories once, you can go to cookout, whatever you want to for a day, and you'll be fine. Because that's one day out of 365 days. It's not that deep, right? But a lot of times when you're disciplined and you're doing what you need to do, you really don't even like to overeat and feel horrible. Anyways, but it's always what you eat is always based on. I mean, what you eat is always you know, your responsibility. So I know a lot of people go to cookouts and they're like, dang man, they made me eat this. Nobody put a gun to your head and made you eat it. All right. So if you are locked in and it's the most locked in you ever been, and someone tells you, hey man, here's a hot dog, and that hot dog doesn't fit into your calories, then just don't eat it. All right. Just say no, because you saying no to that hot dog is saying yes to your goals and saying yes to your journey, and is gonna increase your self confidence. If you tell yourself before you go to the cookout like I'm not gonna eat anything, and then you end up eating everything, well, guess what? Then, you're going to be lying to yourself. And when you lie to yourself, then that kind of shakes up your identity. And then it's hard for you to be consistent. Then you lose some confidence and self esteem. And then you go back to your old habits and you're back at square one. And then you're like, dang, I was doing so good and I fell off. That one time you said yes instead of no is what started that domino effect of you not reaching your goals. All right. So it's literally that important, right? Another thing is a lot of people say, man, I feel like I'm missing out. Man, I don't want to waste food. It's like, listen, it's just the dumbest shit of all time. They say they don't want to miss out. Listen, if you want to be above average and you want to look above average and you go somewhere and everyone looks average, what are you missing out on if you're eating what they eat? Because if you eat what they eat, then you're gonna look how they look. It's literally that simple. If you guys look up to like Alex Eubank or you know David JB Fit or something like that, and you see what they eat, or like Austin Dunham, if you see what they eat and you copy what they eat, you will start looking like them, right? Well, not Alex Eubank anymore because he's on roids, but you'll start to look like them, right? Now, if you're like, you know what, I want to eat, I just saw mukbang and I want to eat all this food, right? Okay, well, you're gonna look like the people who do mukbangs. They're usually severely obese. All right. One more thing that a lot of you guys have to realize is that these goals that you guys set, like I have people and they'll be like, man, I really need to tighten up, man. All right, man, I'm gonna lose 70 pounds in the next 2 months. You didn't gain 70 pounds in 2 months. Matter of fact, you didn't even gain 70 pounds in 2 years. It took you 5 years. So why are you trying to lose what you gained in 5 years in 2 months? That just doesn't make any sense. And if that does happen, If you're lucky enough to to lose 70 pounds in 2 months, it's going to be a lot of muscle and you're going to have saggy skin. All right. Like the people who do the crazy TikTok transformations and it looks like they go from like 40% body fat to like 25 or 20, but they lose like 100 pounds. So it's like they weren't focused on the body composition at all. All right. So generally, if you're trying to go for an aesthetic physique or, healthier physique where you have lower body fat and, higher muscle mass, which is good for insulin sensitivity, then you want to focus on maintaining muscle mass during the process, which means that the weight on the scales are going to go down fast, but the waist size will go down relatively fast. Right. So stop trying to be overly perfect or overdo shit, and stop thinking that just because you did the bare minimum, which is what everybody who's lean does every single day because it's just your standard, right? Because that's how you have to look at things. You have to look at things as, okay, this is my standard, so of course I'm going to do it, instead of like, hey, I'm going to do things way above my standard. Like I'm going to eat, like for a lot of you guys, 200 grams of protein a day, and you know being in a calorie deficit and going to the gym 4 times a week, that's above your standard. So if you do it for 3 weeks, you expect results, or you expect a reward. But when you make those your expectations and your standards, then you're not surprised that you're doing it, and you're not expecting anything from it, because 3 weeks of consistency, I mean, you'll feel better. You might lose an inch off your waist or something like that, but you're not gonna be at your end goal. It's gonna take way longer than that. All right, easy sample day of eating, right? Literally, if people copy this, they be lean. No one's gonna copy this shit. The funny thing is, people do look at this stuff like, I've done a lot of day of eatings, and I've gotten like at least, like if you combine all of them, like the ones on TikTok and the ones on Instagram and the ones on my backup Instagram and the ones on my backup TikTok, and then of course like the ones on YouTube, like if you combine all those days of eatings, how many people like screenshotted and saved it? It's like at least a couple 100,000, right? No one eats any of the stuff, right? Like because it comes from like eating this comes from a mindset, right? It comes from you being the leanest version of yourself. It's not just writing down food and chewing it. Because at the end of the day, people are not going to grocery shop for this shit, and if they do, they're going to buy it and then they're still going to DoorDash, because people don't have the discipline to eat what they need to eat to get to where they need to get to. Because if they have an emotional day, then they change what they eat. All right, but if you were to eat eggs, fruit, with some oats or a piece of bread. If you ate some chicken and rice, like some grilled chicken, a couple of rice and some broccoli or something like that. If you were to have a protein shake and some peanuts or cashews, and you had some steak and potato, and you had Greek yogurt and berries, or like a yasso bar or some Halo Top at night, you'd be lean as shit, right? That's simple. But the thing is, and the funny thing is, like when people say, "Man, you're lucky to be lean," or "You're lucky for this, you're lucky for that," or "You know what? I wish I looked like that." They're not eating this, bro. People are not eating this. If you don't look how you want to look, look at this and think about it like, okay, am I eating this? Probably not. You're just probably not eating. Now, if you are eating this, everything's fried. Like the chicken's probably fried. It's probably fried rice. You know what I mean? Instead of protein shake, it's probably a milkshake. Instead of Greek yogurt, it's probably Ben and Jerry's, right? Like people aren't eating this. If you're eating this, you'd be lean. Be no bait. All right. So, how to stay lean? Eat more whole foods, keep your nutrition simple, stop letting food control you, right? And remember, this is a long term identity shift, identity change. And as far as the 90-10 rule, I'm going to make a video on that because people get this rule wrong. They get it like really wrong. So I'll make like a whole video on that. But, anyways, if you're ready to lock in, ready to get lean, get on Body Game, link is in the description. You know the drill.